HOA fined me for my fence being too high, but their fence was illegally built. In his neatly pressed polo, Greg Thornton, the smug, middle-aged HOA president, stands red-faced, fingers stabbing the air like a dagger. His gold wedding band flashes under the sun as he points accusingly at Mark Carter's fence. You think you can just fucking ignore the rules, Carter? That fence is coming down today. Do you hear me? Mark, mid-30s, calculated and calm, leans against the very fence in question. His arms are crossed, but his smirk says he's 2 steps ahead. That's interesting, Greg, because I just took some measurements. Want to take a guess what I found? I don't give a damn what you found. You broke the HOA regulations, Section 14, Paragraph B. The maximum fence height is 6 feet. Yours is 6'5". You've been officially fined, and I swear to God, if you don't have this torn down by tonight, you'll what? Fine me again? Report me? Have me blacklisted from community pool? Oh no, Greg. I'm shaking in my goddamn boots. Greg's nostrils flare. A few neighbors have started gathering, whispering amongst themselves, drawn in by the commotion. But see, I've got a question for you, Greg. If I'm over the limit at 6'5", what do we call that monster in your backyard? What the fuck are you talking about? Oh, come on, Greg. Your fence. The one behind your immaculate 3-car garage. The one that, according to my tape measure, is, what was it? 7'2". That's different. It was grandfathered in. See, I thought you'd say that. But I did a little digging, Greg. Pulled up the HOA meeting minutes from 5 years ago. Funny thing, there's no record of an exception for your fence. In fact, not only is it not grandfathered in, but according to city zoning laws, page 6, subsection 4, your fence was never approved in the first place. You little shit. Oh, I'm just getting started. Greg's shoulders square. He's used to being the big dog in this neighborhood, barking orders, making people jump. But now, he's just been backed into a corner. Linda, the HOA snarky secretary, steps in with her clipboard, trying to regain control. Mr. Carter, whether or not Mr. Thornton's fence was approved is irrelevant. You are still in violation, and you will be fined accordingly. Mark cocks an eyebrow, clearly amused. Do you mean the same violation that Greg is guilty of? So what's next? Are you finding him too? The gathered neighbors exchange glances. Some of them have also been fined for petty infractions. Others, the HOA's favorites, have been let off the hook. But now, Mark is making things public, and people are listening. Greg seethes. He wasn't expecting a public fight. He thought Mark would shut up and pay. But instead, the whole street is watching him squirm. You don't want to do this, Carter. You're new here. You don't know how things work. Oh, I know exactly how things work. The question is, how long before everyone else does too? Greg clenches his jaw. He's been outed. The fine, the threats, it was all just a power move. But now, the power is shifting. Mark leans back, claps his hands together. Well, this has been fun, but I got to go. Lots of emails to send. You know, to the HOA compliance office, the city inspector's department, and maybe the local news. They love stories about HOA corruption. Greg stiffens. The crowd oaths. He opens his mouth, but nothing comes out. Mark gives him a mocking 2-finger salute and turns toward his house. As he walks away, Greg's voice erupts behind him, raw and venomous. This isn't over, you son of a bitch. Absolutely. We're keeping the heat turned up. This next section will be pure war. Greg's retaliation, Mark's countermoves, and the entire neighborhood watching the battle unfold. No cold moments. Just fire. Mark smirks, takes a slow sip of coffee. Jesus, Greg. Paranoid much? As if on cue, an engine roars to life. The SUV peels out, tire screeching against pavement. It vanishes into the night. Mark watches it disappear. He's not rattled. He expected Greg to come back swinging. He just didn't expect it to start so soon. Mark opens it to find a uniformed code inspector standing stiffly on the porch. Behind him, Greg smirks like a schoolyard bully who just called the principal. Sir, we've received a formal complaint about your fence. It's in violation of city height restrictions. Really? City height restrictions? Huh, that's funny, because the city's maximum height is 7 feet. Mine is under that. You should know that, Greg. You're on the HOA, not the city board. Oh, I don't make the rules, Carter. I just enforce them. Mark nods, stepping back into his house. He returns with a thick folder, slaps it into the inspector's hands. That's every city's zoning regulation on residential fences, highlighted for your convenience. Now, since you're here, maybe you'd like to check out Greg's 7'2" masterpiece? The inspector flips through the documents, eyes darting. Greg pales. He wasn't expecting Mark to be armed with receipts. I'll need to check with my supervisor. He scurries back to his car. Greg glares at Mark, seething. You're really pushing your luck, asshole. You should know, when I push, I don't stop. The next few days are all-out war. Mark wakes up to find a fresh HOA violation taped to his door every morning. Fines for unkempt lawn edges, unauthorized modifications, even improper trash bin placement. The last one makes him laugh. His bins haven't moved an inch. He takes a picture of every notice and files them away. He knows exactly what Greg is doing. But Greg doesn't realize something. Mark's playing the long game. Homeowners, we must take action against individuals who think they're above the rules. The HOA exists to maintain the beauty and harmony of our neighborhood. Mark snorts loudly. People turn to look. Greg's eyes flicker toward him. Oh, is that what we're doing, Greg? Maintaining beauty? I just thought we were harassing the people we don't like. Some of the neighbors exchange looks. A few nod. Greg's mask is slipping. If you have something to say, Carter, say it. Fine. Let's talk about your fence, Greg. Let's talk about how you've been sitting on a giant violation for years while fining people over nonsense. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I do. And so will everyone else when I file an official complaint with the city. Greg tightens his grip on the podium. He's losing control. He knows it, but he still has tricks up his sleeve. That night, Mark sits at his desk, papers spread out. He's dug deep into HOA records. He's found a pattern, one that's even worse than he imagined. Greg has selectively fined certain homeowners. He's approved permits for his friends. Some fines have mysteriously disappeared. Mark pulls up his email. He types up a formal complaint to the city zoning office, attaching everything, violations, pictures, HOA meeting minutes. The final blow is coming. Mark is out front, watering his plants, when two men approach. Not Greg, but they work for him. Big guys. HOA enforcers. One cracks his knuckles. You got a lot of mouth, Carter. A lot of energy for making problems. Maybe you should focus on fixing that before something gets broken. Mark doesn't move. Doesn't flinch. Instead, he smiles. Oh, thanks for stopping by. You guys just gave me exactly what I needed. He raises his phone. It's been recording. Every word. The goons freeze. You little. I wonder how the local police feel about HOA board members sending guys to intimidate residents. Should we call and find out? They glare, backpedal, and then retreat. Mark watches them leave, victory in his smirk. Absolutely. Greg is getting desperate. He's losing control, and when a man like that starts slipping, he gets dangerous. This section is going to be an all-out war. HOA corruption, legal threats, community division, and the moment where Greg finally overplays his hand. Mark, he's ready, and he's about to strike the final blow. The Post accuses Mark of being a disruptive, aggressive, and openly hostile presence in the community. It claims Mark has a history of harassment and refusal to comply with basic neighborhood guidelines. Asterisk, it even hints at legal action. Oh, Greg, you stupid, desperate bastard. He scrolls further. Neighbors are commenting. Some back Greg. Others, they smell the bullshit. One post catches his eye. Funny Greg. If Mark's such a menace, why does he have receipts? If you want to talk about rule breaking, let's talk about your fence. Greg's control is cracking. But Mark isn't done yet. 2 hours later, bang, 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 someone's at the door. Mark swings it open and finds two uniformed HOA compliance officers. Not city officials, Greg's lapdogs. Mr. Carter, under the authority of the HOA, we're issuing an official notice. You are banned from all neighborhood facilities, the pool, the clubhouse, and community events. Oh no, not the neighborhood barbecue. However, will I survive? The second officer steps forward, smug. And there's more. Your fence violation has escalated. If it's not removed in 7 days, the HOA has the right to take legal action. Mark tilts his head, expression unreadable. Legal action, huh? Fascinating. Guess I'll see you in court. He slams the door in their faces, walks to his desk and grabs his laptop. Time to escalate. Mark takes the gloves off. He fires off an email to the entire neighborhood. Subject line: the truth about your HOA president, asterisk attached. Every piece of dirt he's collected on Greg. I knew it. That bastard fined me for my porch lights. But his house has illegal floodlights. I just called the city. Greg's fence is officially under investigation. This is about to get fun. This is slander, Mark. You're causing division in the community. Greg is a pillar of this neighborhood. If you don't like it, move. The battle lines are drawn. The community is split down the middle. Some back Mark. Others cling to Greg's crumbling power. And Greg, he's getting desperate. That night, Mark is in his backyard, sipping whiskey, when his phone buzzes. A block number. He answers. You think this is fucking funny, Carter? Oh, Greg. I think it's hysterical. You don't understand what you've done. You have one chance to take all that shit down and apologize, publicly. Otherwise, you won't be living here much longer. Mark leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. Greg, buddy, you sound stressed. You should take a walk. Maybe in your illegal backyard. While you still have it. He hangs up. Greg has one move left. And he's about to make the biggest mistake of his life. Asterisk. Mark wakes up to something different. Not another fine. Not another letter. His fence is spray-painted. Red, dripping letters across the wood. Mark stares. Then he smiles. Slowly. Because Greg just sealed his fate. He takes pictures. Calls the city. Calls the HOA Oversight Board. Calls the goddamn local news. Greg wanted war. He just got it. Greg is cornered. The HOA's corruption is public. The neighborhood is split. And Mark, he's done playing defense. This is the kill shot. The clubhouse is packed. A low hum of tension fills the air. Some neighbors sit stiffly, arms crossed, clearly here to defend Greg. Others whisper in hushed tones, eyes darting toward Mark, waiting for the fireworks. At the front, Greg stands behind a folding table, flanked by Linda and a few remaining HOA loyalists. A clipboard and a glass of water sit in front of him, but his hand trembles as he lifts it to take a sip. Mark, he walks in slowly, calm, controlled. He takes his time moving through the crowd, nodding to supporters, letting the weight of his presence settle over the room. Greg clears his throat, gripping the microphone. His voice wavers, but he forces authority into it. We are here tonight because one individual, one disruptive, problematic individual, has decided to attack this community, spread lies, and harass its leadership. The anti-Mark crowd nods aggressively, but others shift uneasily. This neighborhood thrives on order. Without rules, we have chaos. And when people, outsiders, try to destroy what we've built, it's our duty to. Mark steps forward. No microphone is needed. Greg, sit the hell down. A ripple goes through the crowd. Gasps. Whispers. Greg's face twists in rage. Linda grips his sleeve, whispering something, but he shakes her off. You don't get to talk here, Carter. Oh, but I do. And everyone here is about to find out why. Mark reaches into his jacket and pulls out a thick manila folder. He holds it up, lets the suspense hang. I've done my homework, Greg. And I've got a little story to tell. Greg rolls his eyes, fake laughter. Oh, give me a fucking break. Mark ignores him. He opens the folder and hands out a stack of documents on the table. Turns to face the crowd. Did you know Greg Thornton's fence is 7'2"? Illegal under both HOA and city code? Built without a permit? Scattered murmurs. Some people already knew. Others stiffen, eyes widening. Greg scoffs. This again. You are obsessed with my damn fence. You're right. I am. Because unlike the bullshit violations you throw around, this one is real. And unlike you, I went to the city. Want to know what they said? Greg's jaw tightens. Mark pulls out a second document. Greg Thornton's fence was built illegally and is subject to immediate removal pending an official order. And guess what? That order was approved. Asterisk. Boom. The room erupts. Shock gasps. A woman in the back covers her mouth. Even Greg's supporters shift uncomfortably. Greg's eyes flick to Linda, panicked. Bullshit. You don't have the authority. No, I don't. But the city does. And they'll be here first thing Friday morning. Greg looks physically ill. Linda grabs for the microphone, but Mark isn't done. He slaps down another document. And while I was at it, I did some digging into HOA finances. Want to guess what I found? Greg freezes. For the first time, real fear flickers in his eyes. Selective fines. Missing funds. Payments to contractors that don't exist. And I've sent every last one of these documents, too. He pauses for effect to state HOA Oversight Board. The room detonates. People shout. Some demand Greg step down. Others look at each other, horrified. A man in the front stands, voice trembling. You took money from the HOA funds? Greg opens his mouth. No words come out. Greg snaps. He slams his fists on the table, red-faced, shaking. You don't know shit, Carter. Mark doesn't even flinch. He lets Greg burn. The HOA president is melting down in front of everyone. You're done, Greg. Greg lunges. A full-body move. Hands clenching into fists. The room gasps. But before Greg can get close, James steps in. The older neighbor blocks Greg, with one firm hand. Sit your ass down. The vote isn't even close. Hands shoot up across the room. Even Greg's old allies are jumping ship. Linda. She's already backing toward the door. Greg looks around. Sees what just happened. And it hits him. He lost. His fingers curl into fists. His face twists in rage. But there's nothing left to say. Finally, he does the only thing he can. He storms out. Asterisk. The moment the door slams behind him, the room erupts into cheers. Mark leans back against the table, arms crossed, grinning. He watches Greg fade into nothing. But this isn't over yet. Because when a man like Greg loses power, he doesn't go quietly. And Mark, he's not just walking away. He's making damn sure this never happens again. The sky is gray. A slight drizzle falls. Poetic. Because this morning, Greg's illegal fence is coming down. A city work crew stands outside. Hard hats on. Power tools ready. A clipboard-wielding city inspector gives them a nod. You know the drill, boys. Tear it down. With a metallic whine, the first section of Greg's 7'2" fence crashes to the ground. Across the street, half the neighborhood is watching. Some sip coffee, others quietly film on their phones. Mark, he leans against his car, arms crossed, watching with satisfaction. The front door bursts open. Greg, disheveled, furious, a man with nothing left to lose, storms out in a wrinkled hoodie and pajama pants. He looks like hell. You can't fucking do this. This is my property. The city inspector barely glances at him. He hands Greg a document. Greg snatches it. Eyes skin over the official seal, the signature. The reality sets in. Greg, we can. And we are. Per the city's ruling, this fence is non-compliant and illegal. You had 5 years to fix it. You didn't. Now, it comes down. Greg's jaw clenches. His eyes dart toward Mark. Pure hatred. This is your fault, Carter. Oh, buddy. It's entirely your fault. I just made sure people finally noticed. The work crew fires up the saws. Another chunk of Greg's fence crashes down. With it, his last shred of power. Mr. Carter, we wanted to inform you that based on the evidence you provided, a full audit of the HOA's finances is now underway. Additionally, we've received multiple complaints regarding Mr. Thornton's leadership. The board is considering legal action. Mark smiles. This is the kill shot. Greg thought he could bully and manipulate his way through life. Now, he's facing real consequences. Mark takes a sip of his drink, looking out at his still-standing fence. The one Greg tried so hard to take down. Cheers, asshole. Mark doesn't just win. He changes everything. The following Saturday, Mark is at the neighborhood barbecue, the one he was banned from. But tonight, he's the damn guest of honor. James walks up to him, handing him a beer. Got to admit, Carter, you played the long game like a pro. Oh, I wasn't playing. Greg just didn't realize I'd already won. Around them, neighbors laugh and relax. The tension that once hung over the community, gone. A new HOA president has been elected, one who gives a damn. The neighborhood feels lighter. A few people walk past Mark, clapping him on the back. One even lifts a beer. About time someone took that prick down. Mark smirks. He's not a hero. But damn, this feels good. But just when he thinks the night is settling, a familiar voice cuts through the chatter. Enjoying yourself, Carter? Mark turns. Greg stands there alone. He looks hollow. Dark circles under his eyes. No allies. No smirk. Just pure resentment. Mark exhales. He figured Greg would show up one last time. The man can't stand to lose. Greg, didn't think you'd be dumb enough to show your face here. Laugh it up. This neighborhood, it'll turn on you next. You're not a hero. You're just another asshole playing king. Mark studies him for a long moment. Then, slowly, he steps closer, lowers his voice. The difference is, Greg, I didn't have to cheat to win. Greg flinches, but there's nothing left to say. He turns, shoves his hands in his pockets, and walks away. His reign is over. He's just another guy now. Powerless. Mark watches him go. Then, he turns back to his drink and lifts it in a silent toast. A few weeks later, Mark stands in front of his fence, the one Greg tried so damn hard to tear down. A thought crosses his mind. Why did this even start? A few inches. That's all. But it was never about the fence, was it? It was about control, power, corruption. Greg thought he was untouchable. Thought people would just take a shit forever. But Mark proved him wrong. And now, the entire neighborhood is better for it. He runs a hand along the fence. Still standing. Just like him. His phone buzzes, a text from James. The HOA board wants to make some real changes. You should run for president. Mark barks out a laugh. Hell no. He didn't fight this war to become the next Greg. Not a chance in hell. But tell them this. If any of them try pulling Greg's shit again, I'll be watching. Damn right you will. Mark slips his phone into his pocket and takes a deep breath. The battle is over. The war is won. And for the first time in months, peace settles over the neighborhood.